Hey everybody, so welcome back to Jim Bob's Garden. So today let's talk about sweet potatoes. Now, sweet potatoes, why sweet potatoes? Alright, I know for many of you, like me, sweet potatoes were really more of a Thanksgiving thing. That's pretty much the only time we ever ate sweet potatoes. We would grow sweet potatoes, well actually, I think we usually bought them. I don't even think we actually grew them back home in Kansas because it was, I don't know, just something we didn't really grow. We grew a ton of potatoes, but not a lot of sweet potatoes. Alright, but sweet potatoes are an excellent crop for a couple of different reasons. One, the potatoes themselves. Alright, these are the potatoes, which these are grown up quite a bit, but that's what you're looking at. Nice sweet potatoes. And I want you to know this one is nice and firm, despite the fact that it has been stored in my garage in this box because I forgot about them since November 25th, so like 7 months. Alright, so one, they make an excellent tuber. It's a tuber that has a lot of nutrition to it. In the infamous words of me, it'll make a turd, particularly when you really need one. So it'll fill you up, and there is a lot of nutritional value. And some people say there's even more nutritional value in a sweet potato than there is a regular white potato. In addition to that, you can eat the greens. These greens are an excellent source of greens through the summer when it's really hard to get other greens. A lot of people really like them. They compare them to the taste of spinach, and it's a nice bulk green that doesn't have a lot of flavor but does have some good nutrition to it. So there's two good reasons to grow sweet potatoes. One, the potatoes themselves, and two, the greens. And the third reason I would throw in is because if you're down here in the south, these things grow excellent down here. I mean, this is like the perfect area for them. They love the heat. And last year, I'll throw a picture in here of my sweet potato crop from last year. But last year they literally took over an entire bed and was going crazy. I mean, they were going everywhere. Tons of tubers, tons and tons. I mean, this is just a small portion of what we had. Tons and tons of greens, which we didn't eat last year, but I'm going to probably start doing that some more this year. A lot of coverage for the garden, because like right here, one of the issues I have is this is a bare spot. I don't want a bare spot, so I need to fill it in with something growing in green. And for this area here, I think I'm going to do sweet potatoes, and I think it'll work out really nicely. Alright, so like I said, these were harvested November 25th, and it's still nice and solid, alright, 7 months later. So they also store well. And keep in mind, I kept these in a cardboard box in my garage. I completely actually forgot all about them. Forgot I had them until I started doing my slips. I'm like, oh yeah, I still got a bunch of them out there in the garage. Alright, so let's talk about how to make slips. Now, some people will tell you that you take a sweet potato, you dunk it down in the water, put some toothpicks in it, and let it grow like that. I mean, you can do that, but that's not what I did this year. All I did is put them in dirt. Let me show you how that worked out. Alright, so what I did is I took these sweet potatoes and I buried them in the dirt. It's been less than 3 weeks ago. I went back and looked at some other videos, and it's been less than 3 weeks. This one I didn't get buried fully. It did not produce sweet potatoes or slips. But these others, dig them out, did rather well. Alright, and in fact you can see that there's so many roots in here that it's all one big mass. Alright, we'll try and get these dug out a little bit. Now you can see that this right here is a sweet potato, and I probably let these go too long, I'll be honest with you. And there's another sweet potato right here. Alright, and you can see on the side of it, it has the slips. Okay, now from everything I understand, you really don't want to keep the sweet potato on the slips. So I am going to remove that, and basically what you're looking to do, see if I can get a good example here. This is along the line of what you're looking for. Okay, basically a slip with some root on it. And then all you got to do is take that, bury it in the dirt, like right here. Get that root down in that dirt. And voila, you have a new sweet potato plant. Now with these being as matted as they are, because I let them sit in there way too long, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the potatoes out. Now, from what I understand, you don't want the potato itself to stay in there. And I don't know the validity of that. And I'm going to experiment, because I have some sweet potatoes over there that actually, I'll show you here in a second, that actually are in the dirt. We're going to see how it goes. So now what you have with sweet potatoes is along the vine, where I can almost see it here. You can see right here, along there, and then along in here, it's starting to try and grow roots. And where it lays on the ground, it will attempt to grow roots. And what that will do is everywhere those roots go down into the ground, that will actually start to produce more potatoes. I got a ton of sweet potatoes last year, and I only had 4 slips. So I'll give you a link to that, show you what my sweet potato harvest looked like last year, and then I'll give you that link up here in the upper right hand corner. Alright, so let me go ahead and get these planted, and then we'll go on to showing you some of the other sweet potatoes I have. Now I really should have gotten these sweet potatoes out a lot earlier, but that's alright. We're just going to dig a hole. Now I'm going to bury this whole disc of roots right down in that hole. And we'll just take and cover it over. And then I'll water this in real good. They're already looking a little bit limpy. And then I'm going to spread the vines out and about in different directions. Alright, and I will tell you, these vines will go crazy. Now, one of the things you can do to help ensure a good crop is to take and actually cover these sections where you think it's going to actually start to root out a little bit. Just cover them up with a little bit of dirt, and they will start forming they will start forming sweet potatoes and roots all along where those vines are covered. And that also helps because now it not only gets moisture from right here, but it'll get moisture from all over. Alright. So these are looking a little peaked, so let me get some water on them and we'll see how we do. Alright, so I want to show you this too. So this basically is sweet potato vine here, all along here, back in this area here. And all of that came from either pieces of sweet potato or actual sweet potatoes that I missed when I went about harvesting them. Alright? And I want to show you that if I pull up here, I can't pull that up. Reason being, up underneath here, there are a lot of roots that have attached themselves down into the ground. The sweet potato will do this. And the beauty of that is, like I said, all along here, where the sweet potato has rooted out, I will have roots going down in the ground. Those roots will thicken up and become actual sweet potatoes. Alright, and again, I didn't plant them in here, I just let them go. So they are coming from actual chunks that were left behind, or like I said, actual full sweet potatoes that were left behind. So part of the experiment is to see whether or not it really matters whether or not you leave your slips on the potato or not. Some people will tell you that the sweet potato will draw a lot of its energy from the sweet potato itself, because there's all those carbohydrates. It's basically a store of energy for the plant to grow off of. And instead of actually, seeking out places to root out and places to grow new potatoes, it will just live off of that carbohydrates that's in the root. I don't think that's actually the case. I think it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to let them go in here and see what happens. and I think I'll be just fine. I'm sure I'll get a nice, good crop. Now in this area, last year this was completely covered with sweet potato vines, and I only planted 4 slips. And out of that, I don't remember, I'll have to look back at the video, but I know I got a bunch of sweet potatoes. I mean, tons and tons. I was giving them away, and I was cooking and eating them. All right, so just something to keep in mind. If you put them in an area, like these really just sprouted out maybe a month ago. It's already gone from, I think this is where, let me see here. The main vine actually comes from somewhere down in this area, and it is spread that way, this way, and will continue to spread all over the garden. Okay, so just keep in mind, if you put them in a spot, they're going to take over. They're going to go all over the place unless you try and prune them back or keep them back in some way, shape, or form. Now, I want to show you this as well. So this is an area where I have another sweet potato growing, and I took this out of the garden and put it here about the same time as the ones that are in the garden started to grow up. Now this is just here for markers, not really here for anything else. Keep me from accidentally pulling my sweet potatoes. But you'll see it's grown nowhere near as big or as large. And I got a couple other examples throughout the garden where I've taken sweet potatoes and put them in the ground as a hopeful production as well as cover crop for my wood chip beds. Now these beds have had multiple layers of wood chips put on them, and you can see it's nice, fine, rich dirt. But I'm going to tell you that wood chips for vegetables does not seem to be the thing to do here. Like, this is a collard plant that's been there for probably over a year. Just doesn't really want to grow. Now trees seem to really appreciate it. Like the fig trees are doing great. My lemon tree, my peach trees, all of that seems to do very fine with the wood chips. Just not what I would do for a vegetable garden. And in fact, if you were to ask me, should I put wood chips on my vegetable garden, I would say not only no, but hell no. I think it does terrible. I've tried it with tomatoes, collards, kale, numerous other crops that I've tried to plant in and amongst the wood chips, and really the only thing that seems to do well is the trees. So I don't like it. In fact, I'm not going to use any wood chips in the garden behind me, because I think it's just going to cause more problems than it's going to cause solutions. Alright, so wood chips are great. They're a great way to create this soil, but I think it's the nitrogen leaching, because you can't help, if you're going in here and you're pulling weeds, those wood chips are going to work their way down into the soil, and that is going to cause the robbing of nitrogen, because it needs that nitrogen to break down these wood chips into good usable soil. Now, it is really nice soil. It's nice and dark, and I think that if I let it go for a couple of years, it'll create a very nice garden spot. But again, this is more my food forest area, so I'm just going to kind of let it grow up wild and see how it goes from there. But the point is, I don't know, and we'll see as time goes on this summer, I don't know whether or not you can actually grow vegetables such as sweet potatoes in wood chips successfully. I will tell you, just from my limited experience, it's not something I would try and do in my garden, and nor will I continue to try and do so. Alright, but that's my sweet potatoes. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 growing in the wood chips, and we'll see how they do, whether or not they actually produce a lot of sweet potatoes. And I just put another 4 slips into my garden beds, and if anything, if it goes anywhere near what it did last year, I should have a bumper crop. Last year I planted my sweet potatoes where my potatoes had been, and that's another thing that supposedly doesn't work out well, putting one root crop where another root crop had already been. But I'll be honest with you, it grew great, had lots and lots of production, and I don't really see an issue, and in fact that's why I did it again this year. Alright, so that's what I got going on. Alright, and if you're thinking about growing sweet potatoes, now's the time to do it. You can go to the store and get a sweet potato, bury it slightly in the dirt, keep it moist, and it should produce a sweet potato. If not, you can order sweet potato slips online. You can get them at various stores. Or you can also try the sweet potato and water trick with toothpicks. All right, however you want to go about it, if you like eating sweet potatoes, now's the time to do it, and I highly recommend it. Not only is it a good source of carbohydrates and a good solid mass that you can use for an emergency food, but it's also a fantastic source of greens throughout the summertime. All right, thanks once again for stopping by. Do me a favor, give me a like and a subscribe, and let me know what you think. Most importantly, grow something. Get some sweet potatoes growing in your yard. You'll thank yourself later on. All right, y'all come back and see me.